Hello everyone and welcome to the second class of our SamuRai lab. I'm here today to explain to you basically uh, lots of operators. Right, we're going to be looking today into uh, our logical operators, comparison operators, and also the assignment operator together with some arithmetic operators. I know this is some pretty basic stuff for many of you, right? But we also have to remember that there's a lot of people that have never ever taken any sort of programming class and might be lost as to the meaning of some of these symbols. I think well the arithmetic operators those are pretty common. I would be surprised if no one knows them, but you still could find something new that you haven't taken into account. I hope that you find something that is new. Okay. With that said, I think last time I said that these classes wouldn't take more than 45 minutes. So let's hope that that is true this time around, and we can all just wrap it up in less than 45 minutes. Now, I have on my screen the last thing we worked on, right? We won't be looking too much right now into this. I think at some point we'll make some adjustments here to how we save our file in a very, very cool way to add some dates automatically, right? I'll do that at the end. Today we'll be working mostly on the, I would say mostly on the console, right? To display some of these operators. So remember the console is down here, right? So probably I'll save this a little bit. I'll close it to expand the console, and then I'm gonna click here on the broom to just clear the console and have a nice empty console. With that said, let's get to it. So let's start with, and you'll notice that I'm looking to the side because I have a second screen, and I just like looking at the content that I'm supposed to be talking about, right? It's like a cheat sheet, you could say. So let's start with the boring stuff first. Right, it's most of you, I believe, at some point when you watch this replay of the live, you might be skipping over this section. Feel free to do so. If not, stick around a little bit, and you might find something that you don't know. Let's start with arithmetic operators in R. Those are very self-explanatory, right? Those arithmetic operators are basically, the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponent, and some of those that are kind of cool. So let's start with the arithmetic. Is fine if you do one plus one. Of course, it's gonna be two. If you do 1 minus 1, 0, then 1 times, let's say 3 times 2, it's gonna be 6. Then you have division, 10 over 5 is gonna be 2. Then you have exponent, so 2. Oh, that should have worked. Expected symbol. That's probably something on my keyboard there. Well, I think it'll be too complicated to make it work on my keyboard, but basically what I wanted to do was 2 to the 2, that would be 4, right? So it should have been 4, what we see here. We'll see that later. Then we have also a very interesting operator with, I think it's a modulus, which would be the remainder of a division. So if we do 10 over 5, that would be 0 because there's no remainder for that division. But if we do this, you would have 1. We have 1 remainder of a division. This is something that might be handy if you want to create a custom function that where you work with the remainder. Now, apparently there's also, and this one I have never tried, I've never used myself, but apparently there's also an integer division. So let's see what happens if you do, it's supposed to be something like this, over 5. Yeah, it is. Uh, it is. It did an integer division, so it basically just returns an integer. So this is also an operator. I've never personally used it, but well, it's nice to know it. I'm still a little bit intrigued though. Why the sign for power didn't work? Could it be my keyboard? Let me check. Check here. Exponent. Okay, so apparently, let's see. Yeah, okay, so apparently you can also use the double asterisk. For some reason, in my computer, it didn't take this one. Um, could be my settings. Let me check. I think it's probably the settings. So I have it set on US International because occasionally I type in Spanish. So yeah, in case you were wondering, yes, I'm not from the US. I'm actually from Mexico. So I said I would reveal a little bit about myself every live stream. So that's today's info nugget for everyone. So let's see if I fixed it. Ah, there you go. So yeah, if you see this, yes, in the international keyboard, at least in Mac, and I didn't know this, right? Um, it's not exactly the same. R couldn't really interpret it. So just in case, quick tip there. If you're working on Mac, make sure that you have your setting to the US keyboard or your actual keyboard for your language, right? And that you can properly use all these operators. You wouldn't want to try to elevate something to the power like I did and suddenly find out that, oh, why is it not working, and scratch your head for a long time until you suddenly realize, oh, it's because the symbol is slightly different. And this is something that can really happen to someone who's a complete beginner, like you guys. If you're actually a complete beginner, some advanced people might be watching this. But if you're a complete beginner, this could really be a deal breaker, right? It's like, oh, 2 to the power 2, like, why is it not working? Why is it not working, Victor? Tell me. And then I would be like, yeah, could be that your keyboard is not on the right setting. So I'm gonna keep my setting now on the US keyboard just so that we don't make any more mistakes. With that said, that's basically the arithmetic operators, right? It's nothing outside of the ordinary. Most of this you've seen. Even myself, I learned something new. I knew how to do this, but I certainly didn't know this one. That's unique. And I also never had used this one, so it's good to know. You know, you get to learn something new. I also get to know or learn something new every day. No one's an expert, right? With that said, I'm gonna clear again the console. So remember, you do that by clicking here the little broom, clear console, or alternatively you can click, or on your keyboard you can type that shortcut. I'm just gonna click this one here, and we're gonna go with what is probably one of the operators that you'll use the most, and that is called the assignment operator. So when you want to create, let's say, a variable or a vector or anything in R, and you want to store it on something, you will use this operator. It's like it's 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 everywhere, right? You won't find the script that doesn't. It would be hard to find a script that doesn't contain it, right? Of course, you can write scripts that just execute code and don't save anything, right? But most of the time, you want to store that outcome somewhere, right? And to do that, you're going to be using the assignment operator. So how does the assignment operator look like? It looks something like this. So it's a less than and then a hyphen or a minus sign, you could say. So if you write, for example, x1, we're gonna, and once we press enter, we're gonna have something created on our environment. Remember the environment, and it'll say something like a value, I think. Yeah, values. So x1. So right now we have stored the value of 1 into x. If we do y, 2, now we have x equal, or x with a value of 1, y with a value of 2. Now you can of course combine these two, x plus y, and that should give us 3, right? Using the arithmetic operators that we just recently saw. Besides the assignment operator, there's another one that you could kind of call, well, not kind of call, it's called, I believe it's called the global assignment operator. So that's basically like this. And this particular one, at least in my experience, I've used it a few times, and usually the times that I've used it is when I'm developing some kind of complex, shiny application that depends on reactivity. Don't worry if you don't understand what I'm saying. At some point we'll reach that level of mastery and you'll be able to understand what I'm saying. But this global assignment operator basically allows you to modify the value of a variable globally. So not only in the current session, but for everyone, right? And sometimes in some shiny application situations, you might want to just exactly do that, modify that value for everyone, right? And yeah, if you don't really know about this, you could say that it's the same. You know, if I do x, let's say 2, we'll see that this x value gets updated to 2 in the environment. So x2, right? So now we have, yeah, it's exactly the same. You won't notice unless you know the difference that I just explained. The assignment operator can also be used the other way. So you could do, for example, I believe 2, well, let's say 3, so that we say that if it's actually working, and you can assign it the other way around. Now this is not so common, at least this way of writing it, it's not something that I myself have used. Usually you will be using it like this, you know, going from left is what you want to the place where you're storing something, and right will contain the changes or whatever is it that you're doing. So you could also do, for example, x 1 plus 2, and this, well, let's say like this. So it'll store 6, right? So that is basically the assignment operator. If you forget about it, don't worry. We'll be using it so many times across our many lessons that we'll have, that every time I say assignment operator, you'll be like, I know which one, right? I know which one. Great. So that's basically it for the assignment operator. It's one of the most used, and you'll be using it on a very, very frequent basis. Now, there's also comparison operators. Now, if you are an engineer, or if you're in high school, hopefully in high school you took math. I hope you did. If not, well, you can always learn something new. But you've probably seen the comparison operators, right? When you have, for example, equal, which, for example, and comparison operators basically return a value of true or false. So let's say, for example, 1. Let's do x equal 1, y, well, not equal, but assigned to 1. So we have here 1, 1, and let's try with all the different comparison operators that exist. So let's start with x equal y. So this should return a true, because of course x equal 1, right? And it's gonna say 1 equals 1. Yes, it's gonna return a true. If x was, let's say, 2, and then we do, by the way, pro tip, if you press up on your keyboard, you can return to previous operations you've done. So I'm kind of lazy to type that again, so I'm gonna just do this, and then press enter, and then we see that it's false, because 2 is not equal to 1. Then we have, of course, the x greater, we have greater than, less than, greater than equal, less than equal. So let's do x greater than, let's say, y, it's gonna say true, x less than y, it's gonna say false. So this as you've noticed, these operators, these comparison operators will always return either true or false, right? That's it. They cannot return anything else. There's no in between. So it's either true or false. Simple as that. And you also have x less equal than, let's say y, x greater equal than y. And then you also have not equal, right? So let's say, let's do x1, and then let's say that x not equal to, let's say 2, right? We know that it's 1 is not equal to 2, so that should hopefully return true, as you see here on screen. So basically this is saying not equal, right? Whenever you see an exclamation mark, it's basically a way to, you could call it flip the result, right, of what you're trying to confirm. So if yeah, it just kind of flips it, and you can think of it as some sort of switch, right? And that's called the not operator. And those are basically your comparison operators, right? That's it. There's no other comparison operator that I know of. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So hopefully you've seen these operators at some point in school, right? Or if you took some kind of programming course in junior high school or elementary school. I know that some elementary kids are now learning programming. At least I've heard about that in certain countries, that they would be taking programming classes early. So they would for sure have seen this. If you haven't seen it, don't worry about it. Experiment with them, right? Try to save some values into some letters and try to play with these operators, see the different results that you get, right? and experiment, basically. Next to that is another set of operators that are also very important, and those are basically called logical operators. Logical operators are basically and or not. We briefly touched on not, which is, if you remember, the exclamation mark, right? Oh, look, here it's telling me that it's waiting for another instruction. So if I press this, it's telling me, yeah, this is an incomplete instruction, so you should probably finish it. So let's make it fail. Well, this is weird. Fine. If you do, for example, 1 and I press enter, it's gonna tell me like, oh well, you need to finish that instruction, right? So you need to finish that. So let's add a 1, and it should be 2. So in case you ever see in the console something that is like with a plus sign and it's not returning everything, then you know that probably your instruction is not complete and that you should complete it. If you don't want to complete that instruction, you can always press escape and it'll take you back to inputting whatever you want, right? It's gonna work up right again. But going back on topic, I was talking about the logical operators, and those operators are basically and or. And is very easy to locate on your keyboard. It's basically, if you have an English keyboard, US keyboard, it's above the 7 key, at least on Mac. It is on a Mac keyboard, like this one that I have here. If you don't have a Mac keyboard, hopefully it is above the 7 key. The or operator, at least on my keyboard, is on top of the return key on your right side, just below the delete. And to use it, you need to just click like shift and the key above the return key, and it'll be placed in there. Now, and or operators are useful to combine, let's say, conditions. For example, let's say, well, first we need to understand the truth tables, right? What is it that the results of things are when you use these operators? And for that, I'm gonna do it with you here. You don't need to memorize this. If you ever forget what the result of a particular operation is when using and or, you can just do it on the console, right? So we're gonna do that. We're gonna type here true. True and true is equal to true. So that's the result when you use and both conditions are true, then it must return, or it will return true. When you have, let's click up true and false, and if you see, sometimes it shows up. When it shows up, you can either click it or you can press tab, and then it'll input it for you. So true and false is going to give you false. You do if you do false and true, it should also give you false. If you do false, let's see, false and false, it's also gonna give you false. So these are the results, or the truth table, for when you have these different conditions. True and true is true, true and false is false, false and true is false, false and false is false. Then we have the OR operator, right? This one over here. So how does the truth table look for that one? So let's try it out. True or false. And before, when we had true and true, it was true. When we had true and false, it was false. So let's start again with the same, actually. Let's do true or true. So if this is true or this other condition is true, then it should return true. When we have true or false, what do you think that's going to be? Do you think it's going to be the same as true and false equal false? Well, let's find out. True or false, as long as one of those conditions is true, it's going to come up as true. If we do the false and, actually I mistyped that, false and true, this is exactly the same. It's gonna come up as true. And you false, actually I can just go up false and replace this one. See, very nifty trick up on your keyboard, remember that. False or false is gonna give you, of course, false, right? So those are those conditions. But now what happens if you have, for example, let's say the not operator? So if what happens if I type false like this? I'm basically flipping it. Like I said, it works like some kind of switch. So it's like not false, then it's gonna change it to true. So we already used it earlier when we said 1 not equal to 2. That's true because 1 is not equal to 2, right? So that's how you can use the operator for the not operator. Now, besides, there's only those 3 operators that are called logical operators, right? And, or, not. But you also have, let's say, a slightly similar operator, which is also an AND operator. That is a double AND, or you can also have a double OR. What is the difference between those two? Because I think if we use it like this, let's say, let's delete this, let's go up. There we go, true and true. If you execute it like that, you'll see that, well, Victor, it gives me the exact same thing. It gives me a true, right? So why do I need to know this? It's like, you're just wasting my time, man. It's like, give me a break. Well, it is important to know, especially when you're working with very, very large data sets. If you're working, or data frames, if you're working with very small data frames, it doesn't really matter because your computer will be able to handle it. But let's say that you're working with millions, billions of observations. Remember, observations are rows. If you talk about Excel, and variables are columns. So imagine that you have a variable, a column, right, that contains, let's say, 3 million data points, 3 million values, right? And the data in there is always the same. All of that single column contains exactly the same value. In that situation, if you use the single AND operator, that is only one, that means that the particular condition that you want to evaluate for this million rows, which has the exact same value, right, would end up returning, would evaluate it for every single case. So it will go for the first value. Oh, is this condition true or false? And it'll return something. Then it'll go to the second row, then the third row, then the fourth row, then the fifth row. And it'll do it a million times. And that is to some extent wasteful, don't you think? If you know, or if you have the exact same value across all the column, it's a waste of processing power, right? If you already know that the result just from evaluating the first or second, doing the operation a first time or two times, then you can save a lot of processing power and then assume that the rest is the same, right? And that's where the double AND or the double OR operator come in hand. That's where it comes in handy, basically. Instead of evaluating the condition a million times for each single value across that variable, it'll just say, fine, I'll just evaluate the first time or two times, and that's it. The rest it's the same. There's no need to further evaluate, saving you a lot of precious processing power. Like I said, that's not really necessary if you're building a small application, if you're building a small piece of code that just works on a couple of, let's say, 100,000 rows or something like this. You won't really be penalized for this. But it's important to remember that if you want to save some processing power then in the future, and you know that that just by evaluating the first value with your condition, it's going to return the same for the rest of the row, then save yourself some processing power and use the double AND or the double OR operator. Now, that's basically it for the logical operators. So I'm going to be clearing this up, and we also have another, let's say, operator that allows you to create a series of, or a sequence of numbers. So for example, if I do 1 to 10, voila, we get a sequence, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I do it like 5 to 10, we'll start at 10. So this is the column operator. It allows you to create those quick lists. Pretty handy and pretty interesting to know if you want to suddenly try something out, right? And you don't want to create a vector manually. And we'll go into how to create vectors later and what they are. But yeah, this is something you can remember. And this column operator can also be used to specify ranges of things. We'll go into that at a later point in one of the classes where we're selecting things around and we want to select, let's say, from the first column to the last column of a data frame, right? We can use this one to specify the start and to specify the start and end, right? It's quite useful for that. There's some other operators that we'll talk about them as we go, right? That have specific use cases for specific functions of specific packages or libraries, but we'll go into that at a later point in time. So with that said, I believe that clears the basic, this very basic overview of the different operators that you can find in R. And as promised, I said that we would keep it definitely under the 45-minute mark, at most 45 minutes. I don't want to go to 55 like our first lesson, right? Not to make it very tiring on you guys. So we're gonna go back to our script, right? Hopefully, as you follow this series of classes, hopefully you can create this script and keep it there, because I will be providing a lot of interesting code that you can reuse. I call them Lego blocks. Not That's not paid sponsorship, right? Um, but yeah, I call them Lego blocks, and you can use these Legos to mix and match further down the road uh, once you're building code. I do that for my job a lot. I have a lot of code that I've written over the years that I just reuse. I usually think like, oh, I think I've solved this problem before. Oh yeah, that's on that other script that I wrote like 6 months ago. Let's go back to it. And I go back to it, I copy the thing, I just modify it a little bit, and then that saves me an insane amount of time when I'm doing my work, right? So let's open that one up. So remember, you open it by clicking here, and then we're gonna finalize this class with the function called paste. So the paste function basically, it's allows you to combine different things into a string, right? So remember, if I do this, hopefully, once I press Control Enter, I should get a 1. But this one is not a, if you see, it has quotation marks around it. Huh, interesting, right? That means that this is actually a string. It's not a numeric. It's not a numeric type, right? If you don't know about that, there's several, uh, let's say, classes of data. You have numerics, you have dates, you have uh, strings, you have logical, right? Logical is, for example, true and false. A numeric is a number. It can be an integer, or it can also be a double. And you also have what else? Oh, I said the dates, the strings, which are basically letters, right? A number can also be transformed into a string, just like I did. I transformed the value of x, which was a numeric type, into a string. So string paste allows us to basically do that. So if I do this, and then I say sep equal, which is the separator between, right? And before that, let's do x plus y, and let's save that in z, right? So we already have the result here. So let's say that I wanted to print that. So I could do like something like this, x plus, and then I could actually, I'm not gonna use a separator here. I'm gonna keep it simple. The separator basically will be used to print things in between the different things that I give. So if I do this, it should give me 1 plus 1, right? But I'm gonna do it slightly different this time. So I'm gonna do x, and then I'm gonna manually insert the plus, and then I'm gonna do z, and here I'm gonna do equal, and hopefully this should give us 1 plus 1 equal 2. And this is not a, like I said, this is not an arithmetic operation. This is just printed. This is just a string, right? At some point we'll probably have an exercise where you can play with that. I'll definitely leave something at some point, and you can try that challenge if you want when the time comes. With that said, we're going to be using this paste function. Like I said, this is I call it an MVP. Right? You can use it in so many ways. I've used this creatively in so many ways. It's an amazing function. You also have something called paste 0, which doesn't take into account spaces. So you notice here that we have some spaces in here. If we had done that with a pace 0, it would come out slightly different. See? So it basically says that there's no separator, right? So it just puts everything that you have in there together. With that said, we kind of know how to use this now. So now I'm gonna use this paste function to do something very, very cool, and you see why I like paste so much. And I'm gonna be looking at that. Just give me a second because I just need to look something up. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's say that we're running a script, right? We have a lot of things, and sometimes we modify something in between, something in the data, right? Because you want to, I don't know, create a simulation or something, a slightly altered simulation, right? And you want that to be saved. If we save it like we did here, of course we have override true, so it'll just override your results. But sometimes you want to be like, yeah, you know, I want to have all those different simulations that I do. So how can I do that so that I don't have to manually change, you know, go to my desktop and change the name of the file? That would be the slow and to some extent the dumb way of doing it, right? A much more, let's say, smart way of doing it is by using our friend paste. So we're going to do a paste here. Then we're going to call it book 1. Then let's add a hyphen here because we want to have that. And then we're going to be doing and I'm looking here at something interesting. We're going to be using another function called format. And this will allow us to format something called systime. Systime is another function that basically gives us the time for the current time, right? So if I do, for example, here sys dot time, select this one, it's gonna tell me the current, right? So it's Pacific daytime. So another nugget of information. I'm on the Pacific, on the west coast of the US. And it says 2024-0801, which is the current date, 1923-49, right? So we can use that in here. So with the format, we can actually format that systime into whatever we want. We can format the date. So we're gonna do here sys.time, and then we don't need to provide anything inside. We're still inside the format function. You can see that because it's highlighted here. And then we're gonna do let's see, we're gonna insert something here. We're gonna do %y. Don't worry about this. You can look up online how to format time, and it will show up. I'll probably share with you. Well, maybe I can share it with you right now. For time r. Let's see. Oh yeah, complete guide to date formats. The first result. So yeah, you can do this over here. Right, this is what we're using. So we're gonna be using that. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna format it by y, and then I want the month. Then after that, I want another hyphen, and then I want the day. But not only that, I also want to have the hour, a dot, the minutes, dot, and the seconds. Now I'm done with that, right? I'm done with the formatting. Then I'm gonna add, of course I need to add the extension because this is writing as XLSX, right? So .xlsx, and then I want my separator because I'm using just paste, not paste 0. I'm gonna provide it as not a space but just as nothing, right? I'm gonna delete override because we don't really need it anymore, right? Although it's on by default. every time we press or save this, we should be, and let me clear the environment. It should be creating a new file over here with the date and time, right? So let's load our data frame is there. Then let's execute this. And there we go. Book 1, 2024, 0801, 1926, 43. If we click it again, let's say we change something in our data frame, right? We do some manipulation there, which will go in our next class. We'll start looking into that. So it gets a little bit more interesting. We do it again, and we get into basically another one, right? 27. If I do it again, it's going to do another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, right? So this is a very, very nice trick. So whenever you're using some kind of writing function, let's say write.xlsx or write.csv, you see there's many ways to write things. Let's say you use write CSV, for example, or write CSV over here. Whenever you provide the file, right, you can use this here to attach the date into it, right? You can actually, it's all this here, this instruction here. You can use this. So very, very useful, very, very powerful. I recommend that you keep it handy because you'll be able to create lots of files that way. Yeah, and with that said, this brings us to the conclusion of our second class, the second ever class of our SamuRai Lab, where I teach you how to become an R Samurai. Thank you very much for your time and experiment. Try all the different logical operators, the assignment operators. Try playing with saving your file, and yeah, if you have any comments or any questions, please feel free to leave them as comments in the video. Right, I'll read through them. I'll try to answer. And yeah, if you enjoy the work that I'm doing, or if you have some feedback and say like, hey Victor, try to make them less boring, or hey Victor, you're taking too long to explain certain things, please, feedback is appreciated. Let me know. I'll try to adjust. This is still a big work in progress. I still need to create a logo for the channel. I need to create so many things that I just haven't really had the time. But there's never a best time to start. You have to start somewhere, right? Just like you're starting here, your art journey with me, I'm also starting my YouTuber journey with you guys, right? So all feedback is appreciated. If you enjoy what I'm doing, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Well, we'll be doing much more interesting stuff next time around. So thank you very much, and yeah, keep practicing, and I'll see you during the next session. Thank you.